Hi everyone, it's me, Uncle Melty. Question, can you tell me what Pantera, Motley Crue, the Dillinger Escape Plan, Slayer, and Linkin Park all have in common?
Well, I don't know why you're talking like Dora the Explorer all of a sudden, but that being said, I think I absolutely have the answer to your question. What do all of these bands in common? Well, add them all up, divide by 2, subtract the 3, get rid of that completely. I don't even know what that is. Aha! Here we go! They're all a bunch of woke pussy posers! Wait a minute. Pantera, Slayer, woke pussy poser? I might need to redo some math. Alright, so if Pantera and
Slayer
are here, then they can't be woke pussy posers. Obviously, all of these bands are real metal bands! Hell yeah, brother! Woo! Wait a minute. Linkin Park? Motley Crue? Dillinger Escape Plan's a metalcore band too, ain't they? Gotta redo this again. I gotta do my math again. I gotta get it right. Maybe they're all canceled. Yeah, that's what it is. The liberals and the fake pussy poser metalheads canceled all these bands, and that's a good thing in the case of Linkin Park. I don't like them. That's fucking sissy pussy poser music, and so is Motley Crue, and so is Dillinger, but it's a bad thing in the case of Pantera and Slayer because they're real American metal bands for real metalheads, and my poor little brain is so confused right now. I see things so black and white, I'm not sure what to think. What do I do, Mr. Meltdown?
Time's up. You're wrong. Hilariously wrong, in fact. Also, maybe overthinking it. Also, holy shit, Thrashin' Jackson. Go outside. This is not normal behavior. Here's the answer. The actual answer. What Pantera, Motley Crue, the Dillinger Escape Plan, Slayer, and Linkin Park have in common is that up until recently, like very recently in a couple of instances, it was fair to assume that all of these bands were done. Like, gone. Like, forever. And yet, it is 2024, and all of these bands are out there right now, still kicking. Some of them are touring, some of them are about to tour. Some of them are making new music, some of them are about to make new music, or are talking about maybe making new music. And I know exactly what you're thinking. You're sitting there right now thinking, oh, come on, Robert. Another video whining and crying about the Pantera reunion or the Motley Crue reunion or whatever, or the fact that Ozzy won't retire or some other old band won't retire. Like, give it up. It's old. It's lame. It's boring now. Why do you hate fun? Why can't you just let me have fun? I don't want to grow up. I love nostalgia. I love my old bands. Fire! And to that I say, wow, calm down. Join Thrashin' Jackson outside. How do you like it out there, bud?
I don't like it, Mr. Meltdown. It's cold and dark and rainy. I don't see any beer anywhere.
That's great, Thrashin' Jackson. Please feel free to stay outside as long as possible. I promise you, it does not fucking bother me. Anyways, metal bands, reunion tours. Guess what? I'm switching things up. I'm not here to cry about X band or Y band or some ancient group of dinosaurs hitting the road again. Instead, I want to join in on the fun for once. Today, I want to talk about a bunch of different metal bands that I would love to see make a return to the stage, to the studio, to the realms, and to the world of metal. And let's start by talking about Faith No More, icons, pioneers, and poster boys of alternative metal. It is worth noting that, officially speaking, Faith No More is still a real band. They haven't broken up, they have not retired. But also, food for thought, Faith No More haven't toured or released any music in nearly a decade. They did have some shows scheduled throughout 2021 and 2022, but these ended up being canceled as a combination of some mental health issues that Mike Patton was dealing with at the time, and also, you know, this fun little thing called COVID-19. And look, stuff happens. That's life. You gotta roll with the punches sometimes. You gotta work with the cards you've been dealt. But here's the other thing. Here's some more food for thought. In an interview with The Guardian in 2022, Mike Patton said that he had not spoken to anyone from Faith No More since those tour and concert cancellations. And it's been 2 years since that interview, and to my knowledge, no progress has been made. at all. I mean, maybe they are talking behind the scenes. I don't know. There's no way I would know. But, I mean, I'm willing to bet no, because we might have heard something? I don't know. Now, don't get me wrong, I've always been more of a Mr. Bungle fan, so I'm perfectly fine with the trade-off here being that Mr. Bungle is finally active again. But I like some Faith No More too. I wouldn't mind hearing some Faith No More stuff live in concert. I wouldn't mind hearing what these guys might cook up in 2024. Could be fun, exciting, imaginative, you know? Next up, let's talk about Dark Angel, titans of underground thrash metal from the 1980s, known for visceral riffs, dark, consuming production, and some complex and clever progressions. More intelligent and brash and brutal than your typical thrash band of the time, and that's why so many people, including myself, were pumped to hear that Dark Angel would be reuniting and releasing a new album. Here's the thing though, we heard that back in like 2013, and there have been like sporadic updates over the course of the decade, over the course of the past 11 years, detailing whatever progress has been made on a Dark Angel album. And we've gotten nothing, and frankly, it sounds like there wasn't any progress made at all, at least not up until very recently, because Gene Hoglan, like, recently in the summer talked about how he had just finished recording his drum parts. And to be fair, Dark Angel have also done more concerts and live events than Faith No More has in the 11-year span of time, but even so, still, it kind of feels like Dark Angel is there, but not really there, you know what I mean? Now, it is worth remembering that longtime guitarist and founding member Jim Durkin did pass away last year, but it is also worth remembering that he did step away from the band in 2020, so in theory, this shouldn't be too much of an obstacle. I think if I were in Dark Angels' shoes right now, or if I were their manager or whatever, I think I would just kind of be like, all right, let's take everything we've worked on and let's make it as good as possible and let's put it out there. Like, this is something y'all have been talking about for 10 years now. If we can get just this one album out, fine, so be it. That's cool, that's good. Throw in a North American tour, throw in a European tour, all that stuff, and then we're fine. Next up, we have 3 Inches of Blood, a Canadian crew from Vancouver, British Columbia, known for their combination of epic heavy metal tones and power metal, thrash metal, speed metal, lots of screaming, screeching, piercing, falsetto vocals, and like fantasy battle imagery and such. I remember being like blown away and even like a little scared when I first heard 3 Inches of Blood back in 2009, especially with Destroy the Orcs. I mean, it was just such a volatile, massive, epic song. Like, it just kind of took me off my feet. And I honestly thought it was a shame when they officially disbanded in 2015. It is worth noting, much like Faith No More and Dark Angel, they are at the moment officially active. They got back together earlier this year in the summer, did some tours here and there across North America, but I didn't get to go to those shows, and I'm greedy and I want more. Please and thank you. Especially because all of these guys stayed active within metal music, joining other projects, doing different things, and I feel like all of them coming back together and doing an album with all of these different influences and all of these different experiences, I feel like that could be a real showstopper. Like, we're talking a fucking masterpiece of an epic heavy metal album, maybe, possibly. That's what I think, at least. Next up, we have The Sword, one of my favorite epic heavy metal doom metal bands. Records like Gods of the Earth, Warp Riders, especially Apocryphon, filled with tight, juicy, epic, savage riffage, amazing vocals. I love the adventurous, playful songcraft and the immersive sound and production of these records. Like, it just feels and sounds epic. You ever see the album cover for Gods of the Earth, especially with, like, the lightning striking the tip of, like, a sword on top of a mountain? That's consistently what The Swords' music sounds like, at least in this area. They do transition into, like, psychedelic kind of hard rock territory with High Country, but personally, I really like that album as well. Used Future, not so much. I maybe won't defend Used Future, but High Country was pretty cool. Now, these guys disbanded fairly recently, not even 2 full years ago. They announced that they'd be splitting up in October of 2022, and it's worth noting that they have announced a one-off show, and apparently they're contributing to some kind of Pink Floyd tribute album compilation thing that's coming out soon-ish. I don't know the exact details of either, so I don't know, bear with me here. But, much like with 3 Inches of Blood, I'm greedy and I want more. And I'm not even saying go back to the epic heavy metal, doom metal stuff. I'm fine if you don't. You've done that. That's fine. Even if they just did like a really good hard rock record, I'd be fine with that, as long as it's better than Used Future. just as long as it's better than that. Okay? Don't make me regret asking for this. Next up, we have Storm Corrosion, and this time, no cheating, because Storm Corrosion has not been active in any capacity whatsoever pretty much ever since they released their only album, their debut self-titled album, back in 2012. This was a collaboration between Michael Ackerfeld of Opeth fame and Steven Wilson of Porcupine Tree fame, and also just like prog rock fame in general. I mean, he's worked with so many different artists behind the scenes, remixing, remastering, and producing classic records and reissues and box sets for like King Crimson, Jethro Tull, Gentle Giant, also the likes of Chic and Black Sabbath, so you know, he's a busy motherfucker. Also, his solo output, like he's got a very eclectic and really like strong body of solo work. I love The Raven That Refused to Sing. That's maybe one of the best prog rock albums like of the modern era. I think it's excellent. There's so much that like these two have learned over the course of the past 12 years that I think would make for an amazing Storm Corrosion follow-up. Like, say what you will of modern-day Opeth, and Lord knows, many have, including myself, but Michael Ackerfeld is an incredibly accomplished musician, and I think his transition into more straightforward progressive rock with Heritage and Pale Communion was actually handled very well. And we already know that these guys work really well together, not just because of Storm Corrosion, but also because Steven Wilson was a producer, working with Opeth a lot throughout the 2000s. There's no bad blood whatsoever. Like, there's so much potential for a Storm Corrosion follow-up. I need it. It's something that needs to happen. Next up, let's talk about Agoraphobic Nosebleed. In my opinion, one of the most unhinged, erratic, totally batshit insane and fucking crazy-ass grindcore bands to ever have existed. Tons of electronic drums and samples and grinding, pounding, crusty metallic guitars and screaming vocals, and it's rabid and it's intense and it's in your face. Altered States of America is like 21 minutes long and it has 100 fucking songs on it. It feels like a shotgun blast of like weird, snappy, kind of electronic extreme metal and grindcore. And this is yet another case where I should note, Agoraphobic Nosebleed is, officially speaking, still a real band. They have not broken up, but they have most certainly disappeared. They haven't done any shows whatsoever in a long time, and they weren't doing a ton to begin with. I think one of the last like high-profile shows they did was the Decibel Beer Metal Fest in 2017 in Philly, and I know this because I was there. And it's a shame because at the time they were planning this like multi-part EP series that would see Agoraphobic Nosebleed going into a ton of different genres and, you know, experimenting a lot and showing off some creative muscle. In fact, they did end up releasing at least one EP arc, which saw them going into like doom metal, sludge metal territory, very misanthropic and oppressive and brutal. But then singer Kat Katz left the band in 2018, and it looks like this EP series was brought to a complete halt at a certain point because nothing else was released from it. We haven't heard anything from Agoraphobic Nosebleed. I think out of all the bands we're talking about, this is like the least likely to come back because there's really not much demand at all for more Agoraphobic Nosebleed. But, I mean, I'd still personally really like to see it someday. At bare minimum, it'd be cool to see what the rest of this EP series was going to be, what that could have been about. Next up, Cephalic Carnage, technical death metal and death grind crew, although to their credit, they've explored a variety of different genres at times, sometimes for comedic purposes, but nonetheless, they've done a lot of cool stuff, or at least they used to do a lot of cool stuff, because they don't tour very often or really at all, or at least they haven't for a long time. They definitely haven't released any new music in like 14, 15 years or so. I think their last album was like 2009, 2010, somewhere around that time frame. And it's a shame because their particular take on like technical death metal, grindcore, death grind, which they've sometimes labeled as hydro grind, I feel like there's absolutely room for that in today's modern death and extreme metal scene. Like, these guys are top-notch musicians, and they write really good stuff, and they also are very self-aware, and they have a very good sense of humor. And with so many genuinely talented but also kind of silly-ass death metal bands out there like Sanguisugabog, turning heads left and right, I dare you to tell me that Cephalic Carnage would not be able to do some fucking good and have some fucking fun right now in 2024. Especially with this current lineup. I mean, on bass guitar, you've got Nick Shenzilos, who's done great stuff with Havoc, Job for a Cowboy, Nuclear Power Trio. Apparently, John Charn is like their live drummer, and I mean, he's a fucking legend at this point. He's worked with everyone from also Job for a Cowboy, but also Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats, Umber Vitae, The Red Chord. I mean, hell, you could pull from like the massive list of Cephalic Carnage alumni, just do like a massive rotating lineup. Like, there's lots of potential here for this to really work. Next up, we have Skeletonwitch, one of the most reputable and powerful voices within melodic black metal and black and thrash metal throughout the 2000s going into the early to mid 2010s. They haven't done anything since Devouring Radiant Light. Like, at all. And I, for the life of me, have no idea why this is the case, because, again, Skeletonwitch were pretty popular, despite some lineup changes, despite some controversy that led to those lineup changes. Devouring Radiant Light was kind of a hit, and it showed Skeletonwitch ready to go in a completely brand new direction. More interested in atmospheric and melodic black metal, interested in harsher sounds, more emotional kind of songwriting and songcraft, and denser, more spacey, lush production. Like, I remember, too, in, like, 2021, 2022, kind of being like, oh, man, it's been a while since Skeletonwitch dropped anything. I wonder what they've been cooking up. And it's been 6 years, and not a single peep, not a single word, nothing at all. No tours, nothing on social media, aside from occasionally, like, telling us about some merch being discounted or whatever. And that's weird and a little sad. Like, where are you, Skeletonwitch? I miss you, Skeletonwitch. I could really use you right now, Skeletonwitch. I hope these guys are okay, and I sincerely hope that all this quiet means they actually are working on something. But if they aren't, fucking get back to it, boys! We miss you, we need you! Next up, Weekend Nachos, perhaps one of the most cutthroat, miserable, brutal, in-your-face, uncompromising power violence and grindcore bands of the 2010s. I enjoy a lot of their stuff, but I'm especially a big fan of Still and Apology, released in 2013 and 2016, respectively, the latter of which was their last album. They officially disbanded after that. They've done some one-off shows within the past year, but as is the case with a lot of these bands, repeat after me, I'm greedy and I want more. I definitely feel like this is another case where it's very unlikely that Weekend Nachos will do another album or an EP or demo or whatever the fuck. It's very unlikely they'll do like a full-blown North American tour. I feel like it's just going to be special events and little one-off festival appearances and little shows and shit like that. And fine, I mean, it's better than nothing, but I would personally like a little bit more than better than nothing. Just personally, that's my thing. And finally, Brain Tentacles. A lot of you may not immediately recognize this band, but I promise you, once you hear their lone self-titled album, Brain Tentacles, released back in 2016, you too will also want these guys to get their shit together and put out a new album. A wild combination of jazz and dirty, gritty experimental metal. It's complex and convoluted and totally weird and totally funky and totally right up my fucking alley as a result of that. Like, it's right up there with some stuff from, like, Mama Leak as just being, like, one of the weirdest and most brutal and exciting combinations of, like, jazz and extreme metal, like, ever. Like, that you can get out there right now. And they only did one album, and that's criminal, in my opinion. This is also kind of a supergroup kind of thing. Like, these guys are all busy in their own different projects. The drummer's from Municipal Waste of all fucking bands, believe it or not. So, you know, I get it. This is a case where they just kind of... Maybe it's not so much that they disappeared and didn't want to do it, they just haven't found the time. You know, whatever, I'll give them benefit of the doubt. But if the stars align and if they find a way to figure it out, please do so. I want more Brain Tentacles. I want more weird, insane, nutty-ass fucking jazz metal bullshit. I want this so bad. Put it in my veins. I don't give a shit. I don't really have some honorable mentions, but I guess we can shout out like bands like Botch and The Red Chord, who have also done one-off shows, and maybe they've released a couple of singles here and there, but, you know, my famous catchphrase in this video, I'm greedy and I want more. It'd be great to see System of a Down also finally get their shit together and actually make an album, but, I mean, they are active. They have released at least a few standalone singles here and there. They've done some touring. They've done some shows. Also, and I know that this definitely isn't happening, but I'd love to see a Windear reunion as well. I think that'd be really cool. I think there's a lot of room for Windear right now within this modern black metal scene with bands like Wolves in the Throne Room and Panopticon out there. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, as a longtime Guns N' Roses fan, I think it would be great to see the 10-year Guns N' Roses reunion tour actually develop and result in some new music. And when I say new music, I do mean new music. I'm not talking about old Chinese democracy cuts that were thrown into the garbage and then scooped up and given a new coat of paint with Slash on guitar and Duff on bass. Wow, it's new, wow. No, I'm talking a brand new Guns N' Roses album. I say this knowing damn well it might suck, okay? I acknowledge that. But I just kind of want it, alright? Even if just to laugh at it, fuck it. Plus, also, let's be honest, there's no way it could be any more confused and overproduced than Chinese fucking democracy, so fuck it. And voila, those are all the metal bands I would like to see reunite. See, I'm not a total fun hater, just an occasional fun hater, that's all. Boom, subscribe. Boom, other videos. Tell me, what do you think of these bands, and what bands do you want to see tour and make music and come back from the dead? And as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.